Maggie Fox is on the line with us. She is the president and CEO of the Climate Reality Project. ClimateRealityProject.org is the website. And Maggie, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Tom. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us, what is the Climate Reality Project?
Well, it's an organization founded and chaired by Al Gore and devoted exclusively to focusing on waking people up and engaging in the solutions to solve the climate crisis.
It saddens me to hear that not even to hear, for us to be having this conversation in a way, because aren't we pretty much the only developed country in the world where you have to wake people up to this?
Well, not entirely. We're one of three, so we aren't.
Are there two other countries that have politics corrupted by big money?
Are Australia and the United Kingdom, but I would say that the denier industry in the United States is the best funded and the most focused.
Right, and so, to say the very least. And yet, nonetheless, the message is starting to get through.
Yes, it is. We're hosting an event this week, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. We are hosting an event, 24 Hours of Reality, in which we are focusing through a new slide presentation that Al has prepared on extreme weather events that have occurred just in the last year all around the world, including in the United States, where we've seen, the fires in Texas and the incredible heat waves all through the United States, the Midwestern floods, Hurricane Irene. To date, just in September of this year, we've amassed a bill of over $1 billion in infrastructure damage just from extreme weather events, and that's in the U.S. alone. When you look around the rest of the world in the last year, I don't even have the number yet for the kind of dollars it's costing us to keep denying the existence of climate change.
The last time, I've pretty much stopped debating these guys, but Mark Morano used to come on our show a lot 2, 3, 4 years ago and debate climate change with me.
Right.
And the statistic the thing that I would find would always pretty much stop him or the other guys cold in their tracks was when Swiss Re, which is the company based out of Switzerland, that basically it's reinvestment. They basically back, or reinsurance rather. They basically back up insurance companies. So if an insurance company has $100 billion worth of policies out there, and they've got $5 billion in the bank, if a genuine disaster happens, they're wiped out, and so they buy insurance that they themselves don't get wiped out. And for the companies that were doing insurance on things like floods and tornadoes and these kinds of extreme weather events, Swiss Re was just starting to jack up their prices like crazy because they were just coming right out and saying, and this was years ago, coming right out and saying,
statement after public statement that climate change is happening, that it's affecting their business and the world, and that denial is not an option, and they are not denying it. They've changed their entire business practices as a result. Well,
I was wondering, as I said, it's been a few years since I really, got into that because I had to debate somebody who was, pretty knowledgeable or whatever, had a lot of numbers and things to throw at me.
Right.
What is the status of the business side of this, and the human side of this, the actual cost? Obviously, there are people who say, well, we're building more along the seacoast, we never should have done that, or buildings are more expensive, there's been inflation. This goes way beyond that.
Well, we actually haven't, I don't know the exact cost, but I can tell you that the most important phenomena that exists in anticipation of our event and the quarterly events that we are beginning with this one tomorrow night is that there's this odd disconnect between business behavior around the world and individual behavior around the world and how our governments are behaving. Mm-hmm. Right?
Okay.
You see individuals, even those that are somewhat skeptical, are still making decisions around vehicles and personal consumer choices. Businesses are doing quite impressive sustainability plans, global businesses, community businesses, multi-state businesses, accepting climate change while we live in a political environment of denial. So that's both the bad news and the good news. The bad news is that inculcated in our cultures all around the world is an understanding that this change is happening. But we have an infrastructure of denial feeding doubt and denial and stopping our political leaders from taking the kind of policy changes that we need to do. So we've created this event starts tomorrow night, and go on our website, www.climaterealityproject.org, and tune in, because we're actually doing 24 hours of reality, starting in Mexico City at 7 p.m. Central and moving westward. Every hour on the hour is a different country, making a presentation around extreme weather events, both in that country and a core slideshow that Al created about extreme weather events that are occurring all over the world. Mm-hmm. It ends in New York at 7 p.m. on the night of the 15th, Al's presentation. He will not only give the slideshow, but he will also do a wrap-up of all the 23 hours prior to that. He'll be awake for all 24 hours.
Yikes.
Yes, as will most of us. Well, it's pretty exciting because in each one of these countries, Thom, a very remarkable individual has stepped up to pull together an event that we will be live streaming and filming, but it's a real live event in that country. I guess today my most inspirational moment is of a young man in Pakistan who was trained by Al, and on the Inconvenient Truth slideshow, he's going back to his home village and pulling together people who are survivors of the intense Pakistani floods in 2010, many of whom are still displaced, some situation similar to Haiti, where the massive shifts that occurred in that country are so profound that here we are a year later and not much has changed. Right. Pulling together survivors of the flood, and he reached out to the mobile phone company in Pakistan, and they've agreed to do 1 million text messages to individuals who have accounts with them who actually have the ability to have a computer link. So they will sign up with us in Pakistan. I mean, that's almost justification alone for doing this event. Just think about that message resonating all throughout Pakistan. And we have people in London and in Auckland and in Canberra, the Parliament in Australia. There was a carbon legislation introduced yesterday, and a real chance that the first carbon legislation in the world will pass in Australia by the end of this year. We have presenters in the archipelago north of Victoria that's going underwater as a result of sea level rise, with some of the native people who live there and who will lose their homeland. The same will be true further north at Kotzebue. There will be in a longhouse in an Inuit village where those villagers are already looking for a new home because sea level rise has already begun inundated some of the most central parts of the village. You know, we're in Iceland, where one of the presenters is a trained musician who works on sustainability and will be speaking in Icelandic. In Turkey, it'll be an individual who works on an online directory for sustainable choices. So when you think about this, when you think about these individuals, and you think about the businesses all over the world, our job is to stand up to the denial and the doubt and move government policy while still encouraging individuals to make those important personal decisions that they can and should be making.
Remarkable. Very, very well done. And Maggie L. Fox, the president and CEO of the Climate Reality Project. Get over to the website, climaterealityproject.org, and tag it, put it in your favorite spots or whatever, starting at 7 p.m. on September 14th Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It begins. Maggie, thank you so much for being with us.